Hey there, welcome to our Tuesday night Zoom call. We have a bunch of great people on the call. We have guests, we have visitors, and it's Tuesday, March the 1st. And we are celebrating actually this month. February was a great month. January was as a team, it was our best month ever. And we held it and matched in February. So congratulations to all of you. We are really excited. Our first new health coach, Sarah O'Brien, joined us today. She's not on the call, but we'll hear from her. Everybody make sure your audio is on. It might be mine. And we have two people reach senior coach this month for the first time. So Dr. Bindu Alexander, thank you very much for really getting your patients healthy along with yourself and inspiring so many others. And then Terry, and she's on Dee Corchin's team. And Terry, Susan, can you pronounce Terry's last name for me?
Whoops, sorry about that. It's Terry Brostick.
Yes, Terry's in Florida, actually. So we have some Florida visitors here, and we'll hopefully all get to connect at some point. So Terry, thanks for all you do. Congratulations. And we'll hear from you guys very soon this month. We want to, the executive directors just got home from Go Global. We had a really exciting time working with our brand partner, Helen Irwin, in creating this, who we are, who we serve, and what it is that we do. And it's very, very big shoes to fill. So the topic tonight is going to be the habits of transformational leadership. And it was introduced to some of the globals and presidentials in Sundance. And we were told not to come back and share it and teach it. We were told back to come back and be them, be the habits. So I was beyond thrilled when we were able to have so many of our ED partners with us at Sundance. So they got to hear the habits and embrace them. And I was sharing the habits with someone today, just a mentor of mine. And she was saying, I share with her those. She goes, boy, those are pretty big shoes to fill. And I agreed with her, and what Helen told us is these are ideals. These are practices, habits, things that we can do to develop over time. And so it's not about perfection, but it's about stepping forward and embracing these habits so that we can carry out our mission to be agents of transformation, it's a pretty big job. We're not just selling diet food. We're not just putting people on a diet, but we're actually changing lives and awakening people to what's possible for them. And so these habits are ones that we can practice to really master what we're intending to do. So I'm going to have some people share with you tonight. I hope you all got the habits. So I'm not gonna screen share tonight. We're just gonna talk about the first habit is that we lead from the future and we act in the now. And so Cindy, would you share with us about that habit and how it's impacted you already?
Well, this has just moved mountains for me because when we lead from the future, we're looking at what we want to create and the vision that we have for ourselves. So hearing Susan say this before, just stepping into another room, stepping into that place and using your imagination and watching your energy flow to that place, that room, I was able to close my eyes and actually see myself very clearly, very calmly being the next place I want to be, which is integrated executive director. It was very clear in my head. I could see my little coaches, I could see their little teams, and it already had existed to me. And it was amazing the sense of calmness that came over me. There was no doubt, there was no fear, there was no distraction. There was no junk going on in my head that was distracting me from becoming who I wanted to become. And if someone would tell me that I had the power to do that, I wouldn't believe them. And it was so very easy to do. So when I think, should I lead from the future or lead for the past, it's pretty clear to me that the future has a place of serenity. It has a place of me already being there, and I don't doubt myself. But when I put myself in my past, my ego gets in the way, some of my junk gets in the way, and it keeps me from moving forward. So what happened to me when I got back home, I had all this great information. Our heads were just swimming with awesomeness. And so I wanted to come home and take that fire and put it to work. And there went my head and everything spinning in there. And I went, okay, let me put myself back in the room again. And I put myself back in the place where I had already become what I wanted to be. And it was truly amazing how I've been able to put myself back in there whenever I ask myself to do it. So then the next part is acting in the now. So how do you do that? So what I found is if I just put myself in the present and thought about what was the very one thing I had to do to achieve what that vision is that I created, all the distractions went away. And I just found myself focused on what's the next first step. What do I have to do now? Okay, I got that done. What do I have to do now? So for me, it became very powerful and very clear, and my action steps were much easier to go through without having some of the other distractions that we bring into our brain all the time.
Very cool, Cindy. That is so true. And I know, Susan Smeltzer, you had a similar situation stepping into the future, and I did too. It seems like when we imagine ourselves in the future, when we're standing back in the past, we can't get there. There's all these things that we can't do and get in our way, our head, like you said, Cindy. And then when we step into it, there is a calm that takes over, and we are equipped to do it. And now we just there's things we want to do along the way. So thank you for sharing that. And Susan, when you get to dry land and can share, we'll share at the end. So thanks so much. All right. The second habit is we take responsibility and we play above the line. So Nicole, you want to start us out?
Yes, I love this. I've mentioned this habit several times already to several people. And what I love about the idea about taking responsibility is that oftentimes we've heard it before, if you're pointing at someone, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you, and, that whole idea. But the reality is that so much that goes on in our life has to do with how we respond. There's a great saying that says, life doesn't happen to you, you happen to life. And so when we live that way and put ourselves out there and look at how our circumstances are unfolding or what's going on in our life, most of it has to do with how we respond. I'm a firm believer in the fact that God has orchestrated all of our steps, and he's not necessarily directing traffic, but yet he's allowing things to happen and seeing how we respond in the situation. And so when we move forward and playing above the line, I know Dr. A and Helen Irwin both alluded to having no blame, no shame, and not playing the victim. And so those are 3 things that we can keep in mind to be sure that we're playing above the line. Are we playing the victim? Are we placing blame? And then are we putting shame? Most of the shame, as we know, ends up on ourselves, more so than shaming other people. But sometimes shaming other people happens as well. So it's important to be clear about that. When on Sunday, Susan and I had the awesome opportunity to go and be at Dr. A's for the brunch. And what an amazing experience, not to see such an awesome house and his Tesla, though those were cool. It was so awesome to sit in his presence and sit around the fireside with him and hear him so confidently call people out. There were people asking questions that were maybe a little bit intimidated or fearful about asking a question. And right then and there, he's like, that's your ego talking. Put that away. You're here to ask a question. What you have to say may benefit and impact somebody else. So, we live so much of our life not taking responsibility for our own feelings and thoughts and actions. And so playing above the line means that we can move forward and setting our ego to the side and being in control of who we are. And I loved what he said to this one girl. He said, your ego is not who you are. You are someone else. And oftentimes your ego tries to control who you are. But he even shared a great story about his mother and how he struggles with his mom, and yet he has been able to put his ego aside and love her for who she is, and know that her ego is what gets in his way. But so it's just a really neat perspective on how we can relate to other people, and always take responsibility ourselves and play above the line.
Awesome, Nicole. Very, very cool. It was fun to have you there and experience it together. And really the personal growth piece of this business and our leaders, the responsibility they take for themselves is pretty incredible. So thanks, Nicole. And speaking of seeking growth, Liz, the third one, interesting, the first three habits are ones for ourselves. Because before we can lead others, we have to really master our own emotions and ourselves. So Liz, seeking growth and embracing obstacles. That's the way. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is where they started to say that the habits build one on the other. So taking responsibility and playing above the line. The next one is to seek growth and really embrace the obstacles as the way. And so the way Helen Irwin talked about this was the bigger your vision is, the bigger the challenges and obstacles you're going to come into, but everybody will face obstacles. And you can really flex your muscles on this particular habit if you learn how to quickly automate this response. So when something goes wrong, I'm going to read it here. When something goes wrong or you run into an obstacle, you ask yourself, what's good about this? And you can either be diminished by something or you can grow through it. And the reality is success requires that you grow through the obstacles and the challenges that are placed in your way. And so for us to do that as leaders, it was something more like, we don't know how to do all of the things, right? We have to be a leader who is going to embrace, literally run out and grab a hold of those times of challenge and know and trust that something good is going to come from it, because that's our path. And Michael, I think you had a specific, I'm going to kick it over to Michael because Susan said you had a specific story to share here.
Well, I'm not sure if it's really a specific story, but what I've noticed is that, definitely if you embrace an obstacle, you're creating more positive energy towards something instead of what I would say is against energy. We need to be thankful for the obstacles, such as, like, if somebody says that, I'm just having a really tough time finding clients. I can't find clients. I don't know what to do. I just can't find clients. I can't find clients. And it just keep generating that, they're going to have a trouble finding clients no matter what. It's just, they're going to constantly create that theory in their mind that I can't find clients anymore. And so what you have to do is you have to go ahead and say, well, I need to learn from this. What am I doing that I'm not able to find clients, and embrace that obstacle and not create such an against energy. Because what happens is once you start creating a positive energy and say, okay, what can I really learn from this? I've been put this in front of me. I can find clients. And then you start doing the processes to look for clients, and then the clients will just start coming to you. And you generate that positive energy. One of the biggest things I think is God, I can't believe all these things that I'm hearing from Dr. A and everything is just going back to what Nicole says, is people, your ego getting in the way. And I think that's really, really powerful, and how, it's her ego against his ego, which I thought was Dr. A's mom's ego and Dr. A's ego are fighting each other. And that, I mean, I don't know if you guys have written a lot about business and things, but this is really where, if you go back and read, which is, what is the book? The Emotional Intelligence book. And he talks about the amygdala and how your amygdala starts to react. That's where you get your ego involved. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but this is just a passion of mine that I'm learning right now. And so I think it's really time, to embrace those obstacles that are in front of you and say, what can I really learn from this obstacle? That's very powerful.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. That's awesome, and it's true. And Susan Giesler, do you happen to remember her story about the motorcycle, the car accident in her face? Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Can you share that one? It's very powerful.
Yeah, Helen Irwin, like Susan said, is a top. She's known throughout the world for her branding and with companies, and it's not marketing, but it's the branding of their product, their name, and everything. But anyway, she was talking about how she used to be very concerned about her appearance, and that she was dressed right and she had the right look to her and everything. And she told us a story about when she was driving to a meeting that she was having, and was involved in an automobile accident, not at her fault, but it was a motorcycle that took a turn too fast and hit the car that she was in, and she suffered severe facial injuries as a result. And unfortunately, the motorcycle driver did not survive. And she shared with us what that felt like for her on many levels, dealing with healing just from the injuries, the physical and the emotional. But then her husband came to her when she was being wheeled into the operating room because she had severe injuries to her face. And he said to her, looked right at her, and he said, you can let this diminish you, or you can embrace it and be better than who you are today, is basically what he said to her. And so that was her example of how an obstacle that could very well, most people would just, let it overcome them and hold them back. She said that this is an obstacle that allowed her to kind of freed her from almost being held into this, state of being so concerned about her physical appearance. It kind of freed her from that. And she shared how she embraced it, and she was able to excel because of that. It was a very powerful story.
Very powerful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was great. The fourth, then we'll move on to the fourth, where we start moving into others. So Julie, we share the fourth habit that we want to start to cultivate as it relates to others.
Yeah, I think the first thing that she said is deliberately practicing the first three habits can make you available to connect with people. And I thought that was a great segue to understand, okay, these first three are about me, and then now how do I take this to other people, and what does that look like? And I think there was a huge theme throughout the weekend, not just in the hearing Helen talk, but throughout the sessions and everything, talking about the power of connections. One of the whole workshops was about how do you connect with people and continue to build those relationships. And they said it was when they were formulating this brand and the name, this habit, they were talking about the difference between building, the word building, and the word cultivating, and what the difference is. So if you think about that, what's the difference between those two words? Cultivate is much more action oriented. So when you're talking to people, and when I think about that every single day, I mean, how do I connect with people, meeting them where they're at, what's going on in their life, really digging in and finding out what their why is, asking a lot of questions. So that's the key of the relationship part. And then the second part is cultivating trust. How do people trust you? Why do people trust you? And it's because of the relationship you built with them. It doesn't just happen overnight. So I think a lot of us get frustrated, like, why are they not doing this? I got to talk to Cindy today about it with another personal trainer. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, why would this guy not jump on this opportunity to help his clients? But it's going to take time, and he's going to have to get to that point himself where he knows he wants to do this with his clients. And it takes that relationship, and you might have to continue to keep growing that relationship. And so encouraging each of you guys, and what I gleaned from this time over the weekend, is just continue to build those relationships. Don't give up. I think in one of the sessions they said you might have to follow up 6 to 12 times before somebody actually is ready to go. So Dee's following up, and me actually jumping on this to be able to help a lot of my clients and my family and my friends. It's the truth. It takes time. So hopefully that helps you guys.
That's great, Julie. And remind our new people on the call there, and they're listening and watch the playback, how many years it took before you were ready to join, and how many years?
I think it was about 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And Dee just followed up with you, right? And you had trusted her, and then you were ready. And then how many days or weeks or months did it take you to know it was the right decision?
Oh, literally just like a few days, and not even that.
So that's good. It's we know that we can, we know we have, like I say, we're agents of transformation, predictable results. So it is nice that we can provide that for people that want it, and it's the right fit. Thank you so much, Julie. Molly, you're going to talk about the 5th one. Will you share with us what that is and tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. The 5th transformational leadership habit is awaken potential and transform masterfully. And I just loved this habit because it really speaks to the fact that we have predictable transformation right in our hands. We all know that, but the recipient of our service at the beginning may not know that. So awakening that potential first requires us to see that potential. And to see that potential, we have to be fully present in what we're doing. We can't be preoccupied with other activities. The wording that I loved around it was create a space for success. And in order to create that space, you have to be connected, like Julie just said, and you have to be fully present in order for that space to exist. And the space has to exist in order for that person to transform. The other part of that, we must be fully present. But what I took away too was some verbiage around masters do less, but show up more. Okay, so we're there as the masters of our craft, but not to do the work. We're there to guide and to create the space. We do more, right? We show up more. We don't do more. We show up more. And it's in showing up that we protect the space where transformation can occur. And the person that is actually transforming is doing all the work. So I thought that was really cool where it says transform masterfully. It came down to masters do less, but show up more. And I thought that was really powerful.
Well said, Molly. Well said. And it fits in so much of alignment with, and Helen, the study with Robert Fritz, who created our structural dynamics and the creative process. And when we are involved in creating, we are more energized, more problem solving, we're drained. And so what you said about just creating that space is more energizing, regenerative. We feel really, we're witnessing them, and we allow them to do the work versus us trying to help somebody, right? We just want them to get it. And it's pretty, we can get in not only our own way, but theirs. So well said. Thank you, Molly. And then finally, 6. Dee, would you share 6?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I think these last 3 build on themselves, that we're going to we talked about number 4, we're going to build trust, and what Molly just talked about is 5. And then the 6th habit is we deliver extraordinary results. We serve to better mankind. And the interpretation from this is, how big are you going to cast your vision? How much of an impact are we going to have on the world? And the notes that I wrote down, I had a couple things from Sundance as well as Go Global. But the one thing that was pointed out, and this just smacked me in the face, was our health program helps people. We know it helps people. But our full trilogy transforms people. So we have to keep that in mind, and the power of what we have to offer people, that we're not just Dan Valentine, one of the top leaders who gave an example of how this has impacted his life. He said, just remember, what are you doing? Are you selling a diet, or are you building a business that's leading the world in transformation? So I think we have to be real clear on what we're doing and where we're going with our individual businesses and the vision. And the cool thing is we get to create that, and how big do you want to go with it? The quote I would love to read, I wrote it down, I probably won't get it exactly, but what Dan Valentine said, he said, there's a world trying to run the race with the weight of the world on them. Help them unlock themselves. It's going to take extraordinary effort to make an extraordinary impact on mankind, those who are waiting for the extraordinary change they so desperately need.
Very cool. Thank you, Dee. Thanks so much. Alan, you were there, and you and your lovely wife Cheryl. Any one of these habits stand out for you?
Well, I think the one that resonated the most with me was the one about taking responsibility and playing above the line, because I think that one of the things that was demonstrated throughout the whole set of workshops was we all struggle. We all have struggles. We all have doubts. We all have development objectives that we need to do. And part of taking responsibility is being 100% accountable for not only your successes, but your failures. And it's learning from them. And it's like what Liz said about embracing. It's embracing the obstacles and being able to rise above them and being consistent, as well as playing above the line, which means I love what Helen had to say about the open mic paradigm, because it's so true. We have to be ethical, and we have to lead the example by showing that we take responsibility for being ethical and playing above the line, which means that we do not blame, we take full accountability for our actions and responsibilities.
Nice, thank you. And I like another thing that's below the line is excuses. When we hear an excuse, we know now, like, are we playing above the line? Cheryl, did you have a takeaway?
All of the above. Just being accountable. The one thing here yet really isn't about the Helen Irwin stuff is any reference to the map. And I wanted to just point out that along with all of this, and along of being present and being accountable and all of these things that everybody's talking about, they also talked about the tools we can use to make sure that those efforts are put in the right direction.
Brilliant. Exactly. The transactional leadership, and that by keeping track, by growing our business and having a successful business, earning more money, we are able to serve more people. And Sandy, you want to finish us up? I gotcha. Okay.
One of my favorite quotes that means so much, because I've had a lot of this in the past. I can't remember what class it was from, but a confused mind does absolutely nothing. And that is so incredibly true. And so if we find ourselves confused, I think we need to look inside and figure out what is it we're confused about and reach up and get clarification. So if you're confused and you're or even not doing anything, check yourself and say, something, and then it'll help you figure it out. That was one of my favorite things.
Awesome. Nice. And by asking a question, we get our ego out of the way too. We don't think we have to know everything, right? And Susan Smeltzer, are you on the line at some point? Because you were there as well, and we had a great moving into the future talk as well. You had the same experience as Cindy about being easy. Are you there? I know you might be still on the road. All right. Well, guys, thank you. We have March Map, not Madness, but Momentum. And if you have any questions about that, talk to your mentor coach about it. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks all for tuning in. And let's get America healthy. Good night, everybody.